I am particularly upset by the handling of this mass matter by the incredible, terrible mass media. At every opportunity, the media has dissected and manipulated these allegations to reach their own conclusions. I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent.
Michael Jackson wasn't just famous, he was untouchable. The man moved culture, shattered records, and changed music forever. And that's exactly why the world turned on him. When you become bigger than the industry itself, the media doesn't celebrate you. It feeds on you. Every headline, every rumor, every cruel nickname was worth money. And for decades, they cashed in on his life like a circus act. This video isn't sugar-coated. We're talking about the truth behind why Michael Jackson became one of the most misunderstood and attacked figures in entertainment history. It's not just about allegations or weird headlines. It's about power, jealousy, and a media machine that saw a global superstar as their biggest payday. Even after the FBI cleared him, even after 2 trials proved nothing, the noise never stopped. Today, we're breaking down why Michael Jackson was treated like no one else and why his name still sparks controversy years after his death. Michael Jackson wasn't just another singer or dancer. He was something the world had never seen before. This was a man whose face was recognized in villages without electricity, whose music broke language barriers, and whose concerts made people faint just by seeing him. When someone reaches that kind of fame, they stop being treated like a person. To the media, he became a walking headline, a money-printing machine. By the mid-'80s, every move Michael made was worth millions in free press. He bought a pet chimp? Headlines. Slept in a hyperbaric chamber? Headlines. Whether it was true or not didn't matter. Even his private relationships weren't safe. When he married Lisa Marie Presley, it became a media circus, treated less like a marriage and more like a spectacle. The point was simple. Michael Jackson sold papers, and when an artist is this big, the media starts to see drama as more profitable than truth. His incredible success wasn't enough. They needed controversy. A dull headline doesn't get clicks, a shocking one does. Think about it. The bigger he got, the harder they pushed. Paparazzi followed him everywhere. Tabloids made up stories like him trying to buy the Elephant Man's bones that he later laughed off. But those headlines stuck, creating this image of someone weird and unreachable. And when the world doesn't understand you, it fills the gaps with lies. Michael was also private, soft-spoken, and introverted. He didn't play the media game the way others did. He didn't give interviews to shut down rumors every time they surfaced. He believed his art spoke for him, and that silence only made him more mysterious. To journalists and tabloids, mystery is money. They knew people would buy anything with his name on it, especially if it was strange, shocking, or dark. And so the hunt began, not to celebrate his genius, but to find cracks, to twist every move, and to make his private life a public spectacle. The bigger he became, the more they needed to bring him down because nothing sells better than watching a king fall. If you really want to understand why Michael Jackson was attacked more than anyone, you have to follow the money. In the late 80s and 90s, the tabloid business was ruthless. Newspapers and magazines like The Sun, National Enquirer, and Daily Mirror were fighting for survival, and nothing sold faster than scandal. Michael wasn't just a star, he was the ultimate cash cow. It started with the silly stuff. Stories like, Michael sleeps in a hyperbaric chamber, or Michael wants to buy the Elephant Man's bones. Both were exaggerated or flat-out false, but they made headlines worldwide. Why? Because weirdness sells. The media found that every time they printed something shocking about Michael, sales spiked. Readers didn't care if it was real, they wanted drama. By the time the 90s rolled around, tabloids had turned Michael into their favorite target. The nickname Wacko Jacko was invented by the British press, and it stuck like glue. It was cruel, dehumanizing, and he hated it. But it made them millions, so they kept pushing. Then came the serious stuff, the allegations. Despite 2 separate court cases and an FBI investigation that lasted more than a decade with zero evidence of criminal wrongdoing, the press didn't stop. They knew the truth didn't sell. Suspicion did. They published half-truths, rumors, and leaks, sometimes paying big money to people just for a story. Journalists knew they could print almost anything about Michael, and even if it wasn't true, the damage was done. Think about this. In an era before social media, when newspapers and TV controlled the conversation, Michael Jackson was the biggest name they had. Every story, every photo, every rumor was worth a fortune. It didn't matter how cruel or invasive it was. The only thing that mattered was sales. And the bigger the story, the more they cashed in. That's why the attacks never stopped. The media saw a man, but they treated him like a business. One of the reasons the media could run wild with Michael Jackson's name is because he rarely defended himself. While other stars would slam rumors, call out journalists, or hire PR teams to fight back, Michael stayed silent. Why? Because he hated conflict. He was a private, sensitive person who believed his art spoke louder than words. Michael came from an era where musicians let the music do the talking. He wasn't interested in messy public feuds or press battles. He thought people would see the truth if he stayed focused on his work, but that silence cost him. It left a giant space for tabloids to fill with their own stories, and they did it relentlessly. When allegations first surfaced in the early 90s, Michael's instinct wasn't to attack, it was to retreat. He went on tour, avoided interviews, and trusted the legal system. But the media doesn't respect silence. It feeds on it. They twisted every quiet moment into something suspicious. If he didn't respond, they said he was hiding something. If he looked tired, they said he was breaking down. Even when he settled a civil lawsuit in 1994, with no admission of guilt, just to avoid a long, ugly trial, the press treated it like a confession. By 2005, during the infamous trial, it was clear. Michael was in a war he never wanted to fight. Cameras camped outside the courthouse. Talk shows dissected his every move. Even though the jury cleared him of all charges, the silence and privacy he valued so much had already let the media write their own version of his story. And once the public reads something enough times, it becomes truth, whether it's real or not. The hard truth is this: Michael Jackson's quietness, his belief that art would protect him, made him an easy target. He was playing a different game, while the media was playing for blood. Here's the ugly truth. It doesn't matter how many times Michael Jackson was cleared, how many investigations found nothing. People remember the accusation, not the outcome. That's human psychology. One headline can stain a reputation forever, even if it's proven false. Michael faced the kind of scrutiny most people couldn't survive. 2 major investigations, 1 civil case, 1 criminal trial, and an FBI file that spanned over a decade. The FBI literally combed through everything. Raids at Neverland, computer hard drives, interviews with dozens of people, and they found nothing to charge him with. In 2005, a full jury cleared him of every single count, but the damage? Already done. Why? Because accusations are louder than facts. The media doesn't care about the quiet truth. They care about the noisy rumor. Newspapers don't sell when they print Michael Jackson innocent again, but they blow up when they hint at guilt. They know the human brain sticks to the first story it hears, especially if it's dark. Even after his death, documentaries and headlines tried to drag his name through the mud again. Leaving Neverland in 2019 is a perfect example. 2 men made shocking claims years after Michael was gone with no cross-examination possible. Despite timelines being questioned and inconsistencies called out, the damage was instant. Social media lit up, old accusations resurfaced, and people were quick to judge. Because once a seed of doubt is planted, some people don't care about the truth. And that's the tragedy. Michael was one of the most investigated public figures in history, and nothing ever stuck legally. But the stigma? It still lingers. Allegations are a weapon. And in his case, it was used over and over because the world loves a scandal more than an apology. That's why, to this day, some people believe lies long after they've been debunked. It's not fair, but it's how the system works. Even years after his death, Michael Jackson's name is still used to get attention. Why? Because no one has ever truly replaced him. Every time a new pop star breaks a record, the media runs the same headlines. Is Chris Brown the new MJ? Is Beyoncé the queen of pop now? It's all bait. They know Michael's name pulls in clicks, stirs debate, and gets people arguing in the comments. But here's the thing. These comparisons aren't really about praising the new artist. They're about keeping Michael's name controversial. It's a clever media trick. They know some people will defend him fiercely, and others will tear him down. That tension drives engagement, and engagement drives money. There's also jealousy involved. Michael was operating on a level most artists will never touch. Record-breaking tours, global influence, and a fan base that spanned generations. When someone becomes a cultural giant like that, people either worship them or want to chip away at their image. And the media knows it's easier to sell stories that question a legend than ones that celebrate him. So even now, when a headline says someone is the next Michael Jackson, it's not a compliment, it's marketing. It's a way to keep his name controversial because controversy keeps people watching. And the more they argue, the more money the platforms make. Michael's name became bigger than music. That's why they still use it to this day. Michael Jackson wasn't just an entertainer. He was decades ahead of the industry. He blurred lines between music, film, fashion, and technology before anyone else dared. But being first comes with a price. People don't always understand what they can't relate to. From his skin condition to his surgeries, everything about Michael became a target. When his skin started changing because of vitiligo, the press called him a freak. When he tried to protect his privacy with masks and disguises, they mocked him. When he invested millions into pioneering music videos like Thriller and Ghosts, they focused on how strange he looked instead of the art he created. The truth is, Michael lived in a spotlight the world wasn't ready for. Social media didn't exist yet, but the media was already treating him like 24/7's content. Every photo, every move, every friend became a story. Instead of asking why he was private or eccentric, they twisted it into something dark. He was a visionary. But visionaries often pay the price for being misunderstood. He didn't live by industry rules, he created his own. And when people can't put you in a box, they call you weird, they call you fake, they call you everything but what you are, ahead of your time. Even now, listen to his music, watch his performances. They still feel fresh. That's why decades later, his name is still everywhere. And that's also why the attacks never stopped. Because being untouchable makes people want to touch you more. They want to break what they can't match. Michael Jackson lived a life most people can't even imagine. He wasn't just a singer. He was the face of an entire era, a cultural giant who carried the weight of fame bigger than the industry itself. But that crown came with a price. The bigger he became, the more the world wanted to break him. The media saw dollar signs, not a man. Tabloids twisted stories, rumors turned into headlines, and false accusations became clickbait for decades. Even after FBI investigations cleared him, even after a full jury said not guilty, the noise never stopped. Because once the media smells blood, it doesn't care if it's real. He was different, private, eccentric, and people fear what they don't understand. So they mocked him, labeled him, and treated his uniqueness like a crime. Even now, years after he's gone, they still use his name for attention, comparisons, rumors, documentaries, because controversy sells. But here's the part they can't touch: the music, the art, the legacy. Michael Jackson is still the most awarded artist in history. He's still breaking records decades after his death. And no matter how many lies were told, millions still celebrate him, defend him, and love him. The truth is, Michael Jackson was misunderstood because he was extraordinary. The attacks came because he was too big to ignore. But legends don't die from bad press. His story is a reminder. Fame is powerful, but it's also dangerous. And when the world couldn't understand him, it tried to destroy him. Yet here we are still talking about him, still moved by his music, still arguing about his name. That's proof enough. Some people can never be replaced.